She had 48 hours to save her brother's life, $15,000 she'd never have, and one desperately insane idea: blackmail the creature that had been watching her for 3 weeks. The creature with eyes that couldn't decide between gold and red. The creature that could kill her with a thought, but hesitated every single time. Marina knew following him into that dark street was suicide. She knew threatening him with exposure was madness. But when you're drowning, you don't ask if the hand reaching for you belongs to an angel or a demon. You just hold on and pray it doesn't let go. What she didn't know was that he'd been sent to kill her, that her blood carried an ancient prophecy capable of destroying every supernatural faction in existence, that the mate bond forming between them would force him to choose between obeying the angels who'd already made him murder his own sister, or protecting the one human who saw past the monster to the shattered soul barely holding itself together. And she definitely didn't know that saving each other would require the one thing neither of them had left to give: trust in a love that shouldn't exist, finding a Nephilim who'd spent 2 centuries dying, and a woman who'd just signed her soul away to hell itself. But as his hand closed around her throat in that empty street, and his voice dropped to something inhuman, Marina realized the most terrifying truth of all. She wasn't afraid of him killing her. She was afraid of him walking away. Because somehow, in the space between his breath and hers, between his darkness and her light, she'd found the only thing more dangerous than a monster. She was 3 blocks deep into following him when she realized he knew. The realization hit like ice water down her spine. Marina's steps faltered on the cracked sidewalk, her breath catching as the man ahead, if he even was a man, stopped walking. Just stopped. Middle of the street, under a flickering lamppost that buzzed like dying. Wasps. He didn't turn around. Didn't need to. She felt his awareness of her like heat against her skin. "You've been following me for 20 minutes. His voice carried across the empty street, low and precise. American accent, but wrong somehow. Too careful. Like someone who'd learned English from books written centuries ago. Either you're monumentally stupid, or you want something." Marina's jaw clenched. Her hand tightened around the pepper spray in her coat pocket. Laughable defense against whatever he was, but it made her feel fractionally less helpless. The September wind cut through her thin bartender uniform, and she was suddenly, viscerally aware of how alone this street was. 2 a.m, no cars, no witnesses, just her and the thing pretending to be human. "I want to make a deal," she called out, hating how her voice shook. She forced herself forward, closing the distance between them. Closer. Closer. 10 feet away now, and she could see him properly under the sickly, yellow light. Beautiful. Devastatingly so. Dark hair that fell just past his collar. Sharp features that looked carved rather than born. But it was his eyes that made her stomach drop. They shifted as she watched. One moment dark brown, almost black. The next flickering with gold that had no business existing in human irises. Then red. Brief. Like embers behind smoke. A deal. He said it like the words tasted bitter. Finally, he turned fully to face her, and the movement was too smooth. Too controlled. Predator acknowledging prey. "You followed a creature you know isn't human, alone, at 2 a.m, to propose a deal. I'm desperate." The truth burned coming out. "And you've been watching me for 3 weeks, every shift. Same corner across from the bar, pretending to read. You think I didn't notice?" She took another step, even though every instinct screamed to run. "So either kill me now, or hear me out. Because honestly, death might be easier than what I'm facing." Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe. Or curiosity. His eyes settled on brown, almost normal, except for the ring of gold that pulsed once before fading. "You can see what I am." Not a question. His head tilted fractionally. Sensitives are rare. Untrained ones even more so. "I don't know what I am." Marina's nails dug into her palms. "I just know when people lie. When they're not Right. And you... She gestured at him, sharp and frustrated. You're about as not right as it gets. The corner of his mouth twitched. Not quite a smile. Tactful. I don't have time for tact. I have 48 hours before the people I owe money to kill my baby brother. The words ripped out of her, raw and desperate. Luca's 16. He has nothing to do with my debts, but they don't care. They'll gut him to make a point, then come for me anyway. She watched his expression carefully. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Like she'd commented on the weather. And you think I can help you? Because you're dangerous. Marina forced herself to hold his gaze, even though those shifting eyes made her head hurt. Because whatever you are, you could kill them. Easily. And because... She pulled out her phone with shaking hands, pulled up the photo. Because you hesitate. She showed him the screen. Grainy security footage from the bar's back camera, time-stamped 9 days ago. Him, standing in the alley behind the dumpsters. A man approaching him. Drunk, aggressive, knife. Drawn. The clip showed him raising his hand, and for just a frame, just one, his fingers glowed. Not metaphorically, literally glowed, veins beneath his skin lighting up silver white like circuit boards. The drunk collapsed. Not dead. Marina had checked the next morning, unconscious, unharmed except for a headache and gap in his memory. You could have killed him, she said quietly. I saw your face in the footage. You wanted to, but you didn't. The silence stretched so long, Marina thought he wouldn't answer. When he did, his voice had gone flat. Dangerous. You're blackmailing me. I'm negotiating. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Spend one night protecting me from the collectors. Just one. Keep me alive long enough to figure out my next move. In exchange, I delete this footage and never speak of what you are to anyone. And if I refuse? Marina's throat went dry. This was it. The bluff that would either save her or get her killed in the next 30 seconds. There's a Hunter's Guild 3 blocks from my apartment. I don't know what you are exactly, but I know they'd be very interested in a creature that glows and can drop grown men without touching them. His eyes flashed pure red for a heartbeat. The temperature around them plummeted so fast Marina saw her breath mist. The lamppost overhead burst with a sharp pop, raining glass. She flinched but held her ground, even as every cell in her body screamed that she'd just signed her death warrant. He was in front of her before she could blink. One moment 6 feet away, the next close enough that she felt heat radiating from him, scorching after the cold, like standing too near a fire. His hand shot out, wrapped around her throat, not squeezing, not yet, just holding, claiming the power to squeeze. You have no idea what you're threatening, he whispered, and his voice had changed. Layered now, echoing, like two people speaking in imperfect unison. I could snap your neck before you drew breath to scream. Could make you forget you ever saw me. Could, but you won't. Marina's voice came out strangled but steady. She met those red gold-brown eyes, even though tears pricked her own from sheer terror. Because you've been watching me for weeks and you haven't hurt me. Because something about me matters to you, even if I don't know what. And because... Her voice broke. Because you looked at that photo of Luca on my phone before I could hide it. You saw him. 16. Scared. And something in you flinched. His grip loosened fractionally. The red bled away from his eyes, leaving gold warring with brown. One night, Marina pressed, sensing the crack in his resolve. That's all I'm asking. 48 hours isn't enough time to find the money, but one night gets me to morning. Gets me a chance to figure something out. Please. The word cost her. Pride, dignity, everything. But Luca was worth more than her pride. The creature wearing a man's face stared at her for an eternity. She felt something brush against her mind. Not quite thought, not quite touch. searching. Then his hand dropped away from her throat. "One night," he said finally, his voice back to human. "Almost. But when morning comes, you're on your own. And if you ever threaten me again..." Those eyes flashed. "Sensitive or not, brother or not, I'll show you exactly what monsters do when cornered." Marina nodded, not trusting her voice. Her legs felt like water. "What's your name?" she managed. He looked at her for a long moment. When he answered, something ancient and tired colored his tone. "Azrael." Marina's apartment was exactly what Azrael expected from a woman drowning in debt. Small, sparse, and suffocating with desperation. Third-floor walk-up in a building that should have been condemned a decade ago. Peeling wallpaper. Water stains blooming across the ceiling like bruises. The kind of place where neighbors minded their business because everyone had something to hide. She unlocked 3 separate deadbolts with shaking hands. "Home sweet home," she muttered, shoving the door open. The hinges screamed. "It's not much, but the rent's cheap and the landlord doesn't ask questions." Azrael stepped inside, and the wards hit him immediately. Subtle, amateur, but present. Salt lines along the windowsills, hidden under decorative shells. Iron nails hammered into the doorframe, painted over to blend. A protection sigil drawn in what looked like Sharpie behind the coat rack, distorted but recognizable. His eyes narrowed. "Your grandmother was more than sensitive." Marina froze in the act of shrugging off her coat. "How did you..." "The wards." He gestured vaguely at the door. "Sloppy, but effective enough to keep out low-level entities. She taught you to draw them, but you don't understand what they mean. You're painting by numbers without knowing why the numbers matter." Her face went pale. "My grandmother died when I was 12. She used to make me help her draw decorations. Around the house. I thought she was just superstitious. Old country nonsense." She laughed, hollow and bitter. "Guess the joke's on me." Azrael said nothing. He moved through the small space with predatory efficiency, checking sightlines, exits, vulnerabilities. Studio apartment. 1 main room serving as bedroom, living room, and kitchen. Bathroom barely bigger than a closet. Fire escape accessible through the single window. Ground floor entry, stairwell, rooftop, 3 approach vectors. Defensible, but only barely. "When are they coming?" he asked. "The collectors?" Marina dropped onto her thrift store couch, suddenly looking exhausted. The adrenaline from their confrontation was clearly crashing. "Could be any time after sunrise. They like making people wait. Psychological torture before the physical kind." She pulled off her shoes, wincing. Her feet were blistered, raw from a double shift in cheap sneakers. The vulnerability of the gesture, small, human, painful, made something. Uncomfortable twist in Azrael's chest. He looked away. "You should sleep," he said roughly. "I'll keep watch." "Sleep." She laughed again. That same broken sound. "Right. Because I can totally sleep knowing monsters might kick down my door at dawn. Both the supernatural kind and the loan shark kind." "The loan sharks are human?" "I think so." Marina scrubbed her hands over her face. "I mean, they're not glowing or making lights explode, so probably. I don't know anymore. 3 months ago, I would have sworn monsters weren't real. Now I'm sitting in my apartment with something called Azrael, who has eyes like a mood ring on steroids." Despite himself, his mouth twitched. "Mood ring. What?" "You do." She gestured at him. "Right now they're mostly brown with gold flecks. Before, when you had your hand around my throat, they were full horror movie red. It's like your eyes can't decide what color they want to be." "They can't," Azrael said before he could stop himself. "Decide, I mean." The admission hung in the air. Marina tilted her head, studying him with an intensity that made him deeply uncomfortable. That sensitivity of hers wasn't just about detecting lies. She saw too much. Felt too much. It prickled against his awareness like static electricity. "What are you?" she asked quietly. Really? Something that shouldn't exist. The words came out flat, final. Conversation over. But Marina, proving herself catastrophically bad at reading social cues, or more likely two, desperate to care, pressed on. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. She opened her mouth to argue, then seemed to think better of it. Smart. Instead, she pulled a battered laptop from under the couch, fingers flying over keys. Fine. Keep your mysterious monster secrets. But since we're apparently spending the night together, you should probably see what we're dealing with. She turned the screen toward him. Security footage, different from the bar clip. This showed a narrow hallway, timestamp from 6 days ago. 3 men in expensive suits. Too expensive for this neighborhood. The one in front had silver rings on every finger and a smile that promised violence. That's Marcus, Marina said, voice tight. He's the one who holds my debt. $15,000 at 30% interest compounding weekly. I borrowed $5 initially for... She cut herself off. Doesn't matter why. What matters is I can't pay. And Marcus doesn't do payment plans. Azriel watched the footage. Watched Marcus knock on a door 3 units down from Marina's. Watched an older woman answer. Watched Marcus's smile widen as he spoke words the camera couldn't capture. The woman's face crumpled. She reached for her wallet with shaking hands. Mrs. Chen, Marina whispered. She borrowed money for her husband's cancer treatment. Paid back double what she borrowed, but they said she missed the deadline by 2 hours. Charged her a late fee that tripled her debt. Her hands clenched into fists. She's 73 years old. They're bleeding her dry. Something cold settled in Azriel's chest. He knew men like Marcus, had known them across centuries, wearing different faces but harboring the same rot. Predators who fed on desperation. Not supernatural, somehow worse. Humans who chose cruelty without corruption's excuse. And your brother? He asked. Marina's expression shattered. She pulled out her phone, showed him a text message. The photo made his jaw tighten. Luca. Unmistakably her brother. Same dark eyes, same stubborn chin. 16, like she'd said. Tied to a chair in what looked like a basement. Bruise blooming across his cheek. Eyes wide with terror but trying to be brave. The text below read, 48 hours, 15,000. Or we start mailing him back in pieces. They took him yesterday, Marina said, voice breaking. Grabbed him after school. He was supposed to text me when he got to his friend's house. When he didn't, I knew. I just knew. Tears spilled over, and she swiped at them angrily. He's just a kid. He has nothing to do with my mistakes. He wants to be a teacher for God's sake. He tutors elementary kids for free on weekends. He's good. Actually good. And Her voice fractured completely. She buried her face in her hands, shoulders shaking. Azriel stood frozen. Emotions battered against him through the bond he'd felt forming the moment she'd looked him in the eyes and refused to flinch. Mate bond. Impossible. Unwanted. Catastrophic. But undeniable. Her terror for her brother. Her crushing guilt. Her rage at her own helplessness. It bled into him like poison, and worse, far worse, it resonated. Echoed against memories he'd spent 2 centuries trying to bury. Another girl. Another desperate plea. Another monster who'd hesitated. His sister. The last time he'd felt anything close to hope. Before he'd killed her. Marina's sobs intensified, and Azriel felt his control slipping. His eyes burned. Shifting. Unable to settle. The air around him heated, then chilled, then heated again. Light and shadow warred beneath his skin, visible through his veins like competing rivers. He forced it down. Brutal. Merciless. Shoved the angel and the demon back into their cages and held them there through sheer will. When he trusted his voice, he said, "I'll keep you alive tonight. That's what you paid for." Marina looked up, eyes red and face blotchy. "And tomorrow?" Tomorrow you're on your own." He turned toward the window, needing distance. "I have my own problems, bigger than loan sharks. You don't want to be anywhere near me when they catch up." "They?" She wiped her face with her sleeve. "The people hunting you?" Azrael's reflection stared back at him from the dark window. For just a moment, he let the glamour slip. Let her see what he really was. The faint outline of broken wings in his shadow. The halo fragment that pulsed with sickly light above his head. The way darkness clung to his left side while his right seemed to shimmer. Marina's sharp inhale told him she saw it. "Not people," he said quietly. "Angels, demons, every faction in creation that wants abominations like me erased from existence." He let the glamour snap back into place. "So no, tomorrow you're on your own. Because if they find me here, your brother dies anyway. Along with you and everyone in a 3-block radius." The silence that followed felt like a held breath. Then Marina spoke, voice steady despite the tears still wet on her cheeks. "Then I guess we'd better make sure they don't find you." Azrael turned sharply. "You're not listening." "No, you're not listening." She stood, squaring her shoulders. "You think I don't understand? I just blackmailed a literal angel-demon hybrid into protecting me. I'm way past rational decisions." She moved toward him, stopping just outside arm's reach. "But here's the thing. You came. I threatened you, and you could have killed me, but you came. That means something. It means I'm weak," Azrael said bitterly. "No." Marina's eyes, human, brown, clear, held his without wavering. "It means you're not as far gone as you think." Before he could respond, a sound echoed up from the street. Car doors slamming. Multiple. Men's voices, low and purposeful. Marina's face went white. "It's not dawn yet. They're early." Azrael moved to the window in a blur. 4 men. Marcus among them. Armed. He could smell gun oil from here. They were approaching the building. Entrance. "Get in the bathroom," he ordered. "Whatever happens, stay there until I tell you it's safe." "What are you going to do?" He looked at her, and for once, he let her see it. The thing beneath the human mask. The war between light and darkness that never ended, never resolved, only escalated until he shattered completely. "What I was made to do." His eyes flashed red gold, and the temperature in the apartment plummeted. Marina didn't go to the bathroom. She stood pressed against the wall beside the door, pepper spray clutched in white-knuckled fingers, watching Azrael position himself in the center of her tiny apartment. The transformation happening to him made her throat close with primal fear. His shadow stretched wrong. Too long, too dark, moving independently of his body like it had its own agenda. The air around him rippled with heat on his right side, cold on his left. 2 opposing forces trying to tear him apart from the inside. When he rolled his shoulders, she heard something crack that didn't sound like joints. Sounded like breaking glass, or splintering bone. "I told you to hide," he said without looking at her. His voice had that layered quality again. Dual-toned. Wrong. "And I don't take orders well." Her voice shook, but she held her ground. "This is my fight, my debt, my brother, your funeral." The building's front door slammed open 3 floors below. Heavy footsteps on stairs, multiple sets. Marina counted 4 distinct rhythms, 4 men coming to collect what she couldn't pay. Azrael's eyes shifted through colors like a kaleidoscope. Brown to gold to red and back again, faster now, losing the battle for control. "When this starts, don't look directly at me. The light can burn. The darkness can drown. You're sensitive enough that it'll hurt you. What are you going to?" The apartment door exploded inward. Not kicked, not shouldered. It simply disintegrated. Wood splintering into 1,000 fragments that hung suspended in the air for one impossible heartbeat before clattering to the floor. Marcus stood in the doorway, silver rings glinting, smile sharp as knives. 3 men flanked him, guns drawn, professional stance. "Marina, Marina, Marina." Marcus's voice dripped false disappointment. "Breaking curfew? You know the rules. Debtors stay home after midnight. Makes collection so much easier." His eyes slid to Azrael, and his smile widened. "Got yourself a boyfriend? How sweet. Unfortunately, he's about to watch you learn what happens when you don't pay what you owe." Marina's mouth went dry. She started to step forward, to say something, anything. But Azrael's hand shot out, stopping her, not touching, just raised in silent command. "Stay." "She doesn't have your money," Azrael said. His voice was flat, emotionless. But Marina felt the air pressure drop, like they were in an airplane descending too fast. "So you're going to leave? Now? And you're going to return her brother unharmed?" Marcus laughed. Actually laughed. "Is that right? You her lawyer?" He raised his gun, casual, pointed it at Azrael's chest. "Here's what's actually going to happen. You're going to sit down and shut up, or I put 2 in your chest and make her watch you bleed out. Then we discuss payment plans." "Marcus, please," Marina started. The gunshot cracked through the apartment like thunder. Marina screamed, couldn't help it. The sound ripped from her throat as the bullet hit Azrael's center mass, the impact spinning him. No, not spinning. He'd moved. Faster than possible. The bullet had passed through empty air where he'd been standing a microsecond before. And now he was there, right in front of Marcus, close enough to whisper. "Wrong answer," Azrael said softly. His hand came up, palm glowing with light so bright Marina had to look away despite his warning. The light was wrong. Too white, too pure, like staring into a sun that had never known pollution. It hurt. Seared her retinas even through closed eyelids. She heard Marcus scream, a sound of absolute agony. Then darkness swallowed the light. When Marina forced her eyes open, Azrael's other hand was extended toward the 3 men with guns. Shadows poured from his palm like liquid smoke, writhing and alive. They wrapped around the men's throats, not quite touching, but hovering close enough that Marina saw frost forming on their skin. Saw their lips turning blue. Saw them clawing at nothing. Choking on air that had gone glacier cold. "Stop!" Marina's voice cracked. "You're killing them!" Azrael's head snapped toward her, and the face she saw wasn't human anymore. His eyes burned pure gold on one side, crimson on the other. Veins stood out stark beneath his skin, silver white on the right, oil black on the left. The halo fragment above his head pulsed with sickly light, broken and jagged like a crown made of shattered glass. He looked like war, like the end of something. Like every nightmare Marina had ever pushed away in childhood, given flesh and fury. "They would have tortured you," he said. And both voices spoke now. One celestial and cold, one infernal and burning. "Cut pieces off until you begged for death, then done the same to your brother. This is mercy. This is murder." Marina stepped forward, into the space where heat and cold warred. It felt like being torn in two. "They're human, Azrael. However terrible, they're still human. You kill them, and you're exactly what those angels and demons hunting you say you are." Something flickered across his inhuman face. Doubt. Or memory. The shadows loosened fractionally around the 3 men's throats. They gasped, collapsing to their knees. But Marcus was still standing, hands pressed to his face, whimpering. When he lowered them, Marina's stomach lurched. His eyes were gone. Not bloody sockets, not torn flesh, just smooth skin where eyes should have been, like they'd never existed at all. "What did you do?" she whispered. "Took his sight." Azrael's voice was sliding. Back to singular. Human. The gold red in his eyes dimming to brown with effort. Temporarily. He'll heal in 72 hours. But he'll remember. They'll all remember. He turned to Marcus, who was stumbling blind, sobbing. "You're going to release every debt you hold. Every person you're bleeding dry. Mrs. Chen, the bodega owner on 5th, the single mother in apartment 7C, all of them." His voice dropped to something that made Marina's bones ache. "And you're going to return the boy. Tonight, unharmed. Or I'll take more than your sight next time. Understand?" Marcus nodded frantically. Yes. Whatever you want. Just please, get out." The 4 men scrambled for the destroyed doorway, supporting each other, weapons forgotten. Their footsteps thundered down the stairs in panicked retreat. Car doors slammed, tires squealed, then silence. Azrael stood in the center of Marina's apartment, chest heaving, eyes still flickering between colors but slower now. Fighting for control. The halo fragment above his head guttered like a dying flame before vanishing. His shadow snapped back to normal length, normal darkness. When he looked at her, he was almost human again. Almost. "Are you hurt?" His voice was rough, strained. Marina shook her head mutely. She couldn't find words, couldn't process what she'd just witnessed. The casual way he'd unmade those men without touching them. The power that had radiated from him like a second sun, burning and freezing simultaneously. "You shouldn't have seen that." Azrael moved toward the window, putting distance between them. His hands were shaking. Marina noticed with shock, actually trembling. "Using both sides at once. It's dangerous. Makes me unstable. I could have lost control. Could have killed you by accident. But you didn't. This time." He leaned against the wall, suddenly looking exhausted. "Ancient. There's a reason Nephilim don't last long. Angel and demon weren't meant to coexist. Every time I use both, I fracture a little more. Eventually there won't be enough of me left to hold the pieces together. I'll become something mindless, violent. They'll have to put me down like a rabid dog." Marina's chest tightened. She thought of the way his eyes had changed, the 2 voices speaking in imperfect harmony, the visible war beneath his skin. How long? What? How long have you been fractured?" He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely audible. 217 years. Give or take. 217 years. Of fighting himself. Of holding together something that wanted to tear apart. Of being hunted by both sides for the crime of existing. "That's why you hesitated," Marina said slowly, pieces clicking together. "In the alley, with the drunk man. You wanted to kill him. Not because you're evil, but because it would have been easier, faster, less risk of losing control." She moved closer, drawn by some instinct she didn't understand. "But you chose the harder path, knocked him out instead. Because somewhere under the angel and demon, you're still holding on to something human." Azrael's laugh was bitter. "I'm not human, never was." "Then what was your sister?" The question hung in the air like a blade. Marina didn't know where it had come from. The knowledge rising from her sensitivity, from the mate bond forming between them that let her feel echoes of his emotions. Grief, old and deep and still bleeding. His face went blank. Completely empty, but his eyes betrayed him, shifting rapidly, losing the battle again. "How do you know about her?" The words came out dangerous. "I don't. Not really." Marina's heart hammered. She was pushing, possibly too far, but she needed him to see it. "I just feel something. When you looked at that photo of Luca, the way you flinched, like you'd been there before, loved someone young and vulnerable and..." Her voice caught. "Lost them." The silence stretched until Marina thought he wouldn't answer. Then, Sariel. His voice cracked on the name. "My twin. Half angel, half demon, same as me. But where I got rage and violence, she got healing and hope. We balanced each other, kept each other sane in a world that wanted us dead." He closed his eyes. "She fell in love with a human. Musician, kind, gentle. Everything we weren't. The angels found out. Gave me a choice. Marina's blood went cold. What choice? Kill her myself, prove my loyalty to heaven's laws. His eyes opened, and they were drowning in red. Or watch them torture her for centuries. Make her beg for death they'd never grant. Oh God. Marina's hand flew to her mouth. I chose mercy. The words fell like stones. Held her while she cried, told her I loved her, then put an angelical blade through her heart, because it was the only way to make it quick. The only kindness I had left to give. His voice broke completely. She forgave me as she died. Said she understood. But I've spent 217 years, knowing I murdered the only good thing in my existence. Tears streamed down Marina's face. She couldn't stop them. Didn't try. The weight of his confession crushed her chest, and through the bond, God, the bond, she felt his anguish like it was her own. That's why you came tonight, she whispered. Why you couldn't walk away. Because Luca reminds me of her. Azrael's voice was hollow. Young, innocent, caught in someone else's nightmare. He looked at Marina then. Really looked. And his expression was devastated. I can't save him, Marina. I can barely save myself. And if the angels find me before 48 hours are up... A sound cut through the night. Sharp, familiar. Marina's phone buzzing. She grabbed it with shaking hands. Unknown number. She answered. Marina? Luca's voice, thick with tears, but alive. Alive. They let me go. Threw me out of a van 3 blocks from home. I don't understand what's happening, but they said the debt's cleared. All of it. They said... His voice dropped to confusion. They said an angel came for you. Marina's eyes met Azrael's across the apartment. He'd heard. Supernatural hearing. His expression was unreadable. Come home, she told her brother. I'll explain everything. Lies. She wouldn't explain. Couldn't. Just come home. She hung up, looked at Azrael, who was already moving toward the destroyed door. Wait. The word burst from her. Where are you going? Away. He didn't turn around. Your brother's safe. Debt's cleared. Contract fulfilled. You don't need me anymore. But She stopped. What could she say? Stay? After what he'd revealed? After she'd seen what he was capable of becoming? Azrael paused in the doorway. Thank you, he said quietly. For stopping me. I would have killed them. Added 4 more ghosts to the collection. He finally looked back, and his eyes were just brown now. Human. Tired. You're stronger than you know, Marina. Your grandmother would be proud. Then he was gone. Disappeared into shadows like he'd never been there at all. Marina stood alone in her destroyed apartment, listening to her brother's footsteps pounding up the stairs, and felt the mate bond stretch between her and a creature she'd never see again. It hurt more than she'd expected. 3 days after Azrael disappeared, Marina started feeling him die. It began as a dull ache behind her sternum, persistent, invasive, wrong, like someone had reached into her chest and squeezed. By the 2nd day, the ache sharpened into actual pain, stabbing, relentless. By the 3rd day, she couldn't breathe without it feeling like broken glass in her lungs. Luca noticed. Of course he did. You look like death, he said over breakfast, studying her with those 2 perceptive eyes that reminded her painfully of their grandmother. And don't tell me you're fine. You've been clutching your chest every 5 minutes like you're having a heart attack. Marina forced down another bite of toast that tasted like cardboard. Everything tasted like cardboard now. Or ashes. Just stress. The apartment door still needs replacing. Work's been hell. I'm lying. Luca set down his orange juice with deliberate care. You've been lying since that night. The night the debt collectors came and suddenly, magically let me go. He leaned forward. What really happened, Mar? And don't give me that they had a change of heart garbage. Men like Marcus don't have hearts. She wanted to tell him. God, she wanted to tell someone. But how did you explain that you'd blackmailed an angel-demon hybrid into protecting you, watched him nearly fracture apart from the strain, then felt him walk away carrying 2 centuries of guilt and self-destruction? How did you explain the invisible tether connecting you to a creature you'd known for less than 6 hours, but somehow couldn't stop thinking about? How did you explain that you were pretty sure that tether was killing you both? I handled it, she said finally, weakly. That's all you need to know. Luca's expression said he didn't believe her for a second, but mercifully he dropped it. Fine. Keep your secrets. But you're seeing a doctor. Today. That's non-negotiable. Marina nodded, knowing she wouldn't go. What doctor could diagnose a mate bond? What prescription could fix the fact that somewhere in this city, Azrael was bleeding or broken or worse? And she felt every fragment of his pain like it was her own. After Luca left for school, Marina pulled out her laptop. She'd been researching obsessively. Nephilim, mate bonds, angelic hierarchies, anything that might explain what was happening to her. Most of it was folklore and fantasy novel nonsense. But buried in obscure forums and academic papers on comparative mythology, she'd found fragments, pieces that fit together into something terrifying. Mate bonds between Nephilim and humans were rare, catastrophic, and often fatal. The bond formed when a Nephilim's dual nature recognized something in a human soul that resonated with both their angelic and demonic halves. A balance they could never achieve alone. It created a connection deeper than blood, more permanent than vows. 2 souls recognizing each other across the void. The problem? Nephilim were dying by design. Their bodies couldn't sustain the war between light and darkness indefinitely. When they finally shattered, the mate bond dragged their human partner down with them, like anchors tied together, drowning in tandem. Marina slammed the laptop shut, hands shaking. The pain in her chest pulsed harder and she gasped, doubling over. It felt like something was tearing, not physically, deeper, in a place that had no name. Through the bond, she felt him. Azrael. Faint but present. And he was suffering. She was on her feet before she'd made the conscious decision to move. Grabbed her jacket, her phone, the canister of pepper spray that was laughably useless, but made her feel marginally less helpless. She had no idea where he was. No address, no last name, nothing concrete. But the bond knew. It pulled her south, through streets still waking up, past the bar where she'd first noticed him watching her, into neighborhoods that got progressively rougher. The pain in her chest intensified with every block, sharpening into a beacon. Closer, closer. She found him in an abandoned church. The building was a gutted shell. Roof partially collapsed, windows shattered, pews rotted and overturned. Graffiti covered the walls in layers, prayers and obscenities competing for space. The door hung crooked on broken hinges. Marina pushed through, and the smell hit her immediately. Blood, ozone, something else, something burnt and wrong. Azrael? Her voice echoed in the empty space. A sound from the altar, wet, labored breathing. Marina ran. He was collapsed against the raised platform where a cross had once stood, slumped and motionless. Blood pooled beneath him, too much blood, dark and viscous. But it wasn't the blood that made her stomach drop. It was the wounds. His right side was burned, charred, blackened flesh peeling away from muscle, the smell of cooked meat making bile rise in her throat. Angelic fire. She knew it instinctively, the way she knew the sky was blue. His left side was worse. Frost covered his skin, creeping up his neck in crystalline patterns. The flesh beneath had gone necrotic, gray and dead, spreading like infection. Demonic ice. The opposite extreme. They'd attacked. Him. Both sides. At once. No, no, no! Marina dropped to her knees beside him, hands hovering uselessly, Where could she touch that wouldn't hurt him more? "Azrael, can you hear me?" His eyes cracked open, dulled gold and faded red, barely glowing. When he focused on her, something like recognition flickered, then horror. "Shouldn't." His voice was ruined, rasping. "Shouldn't be here. Dangerous. Shut up." Tears blurred her vision. What happened? Who did this? Both. He coughed, and blood flecked his lips. Factions found me, tried to drag me to their respective judgments. Fought them off, but another cough, wetter. Used too much power. Sides are eating me alive now. This is how it ends. How it always ends for us. No. Marina's hands shook as she pulled off her jacket, wadded it against the worst of the burns. He hissed in agony. "You don't get to give up. Not after..." Her voice cracked. "Not after showing me that monsters can choose mercy. That beings made of violence can still be gentle. Marina." Her name on his ruined voice sounded like prayer and curse combined. "The bond. You feel it now, don't you? Feel me dying?" She nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. "It'll kill you too." His working hand, the left, frozen but mobile, reached up, touched her face with fingers that burned cold. "When I shatter, the bond drags you down. That's why I left, trying to spare you." "Spare me?" Marina laughed, bitter and broken. "I've been in agony for 3 days, feeling you hurt, feeling you bleed, feeling you give up." She grabbed his frozen hand, held it despite the cold that made her bones ache. "You want to spare me? Then fight, stay alive. Because I didn't blackmail a Nephilim and watch him almost fracture just to lose him to self-sacrificing martyr nonsense." Something shifted in his dying eyes. Not quite hope, but not quite resignation either. "Don't know how," he whispered. "Been at war with myself for 2 centuries. Don't remember how to be anything else." Marina looked at him. This impossible creature, born from opposing forces that should have destroyed each other, somehow holding on through sheer stubborn will for longer than she'd been alive. Broken, bleeding, still fighting even as he claimed defeat. Her grandmother's voice echoed from childhood. "Balance, little one. All things need balance. Light and dark, life and death, love and fear. Balance." The word resonated through the bond like a bell. "Your sister," Marina said. Suddenly, "Sariel. You said she balanced you, kept you sane." Azrael's expression crumpled. "She's dead. I killed her." "No. You gave her mercy when no one else would." Marina leaned closer, ignoring the way heat and cold warred around him, trying to tear her apart just from proximity. "But you've been unbalanced ever since. Tilting between angel and demon with nothing to anchor you. That's why you're fracturing faster now. There's no anchor." His eyes started to close. "No balance for things. Like me." "Yes, there is." Marina pressed her hand to his chest, right over his heart, the one place where burn and frost met, where his dual nature converged. The bond flared between them, and she felt it clearly now. The shape of what connected them. "The bond formed because I balance you. Human. Neither angel nor demon. Right in the middle." His eyes snapped open. "No. Marina, if you try to, the bond isn't designed for this. It's meant to connect, not heal. You'll burn yourself out trying. Then we burn out together." She met his gaze steadily. "Or we figure out how to make this work. Those are the options. There's a third option. I die alone, you live. Not really living if half my soul is being ripped out, is it?" Marina smiled through tears. "Besides, I'm already pot committed. Went all in the moment I followed you 3 blocks and blackmailed you with terrible security footage. Despite everything, the pain, the dying, the impossible situation." Azrael laughed. "Weak and rough, but real. Worst decision you ever made. Second worst." She squeezed his hand. "Worst was letting you walk away. The bond between them pulsed. Marina felt it strengthen, solidify, felt something else too, a warmth spreading from where her hand pressed against his chest. Not the burning heat of angelic fire or the killing cold of demonic ice. Something else. Something human. Life. Stubborn and messy, and refusing to quit. Azrael gasped. His eyes widened. "What are you doing?" "I have no idea." Marina focused on the warmth, pushing it through the bond, through her palm, into him. But my grandmother was a sensitive. Her mother before her. Women in my line have been balancing supernatural forces for generations without knowing it. Maybe... She gritted her teeth as pain lanced through her. Maybe that's what I was born for. To balance you. The burns on his right side stopped spreading. The frost on his left receded fractionally. Not healing, not yet, but not killing him either. Held in suspension. Stalemate. "Marina? Stop." Azrael's voice strengthened marginally. "This is draining you. I can feel it." He was right. Her vision blurred at the edges. Exhaustion dragged at her bones. But she didn't stop. Couldn't. Because through the bond she felt something else happening. His fractured pieces weren't warring anymore. They were, not quite harmonizing, but listening, waiting, balanced on a knife's edge between destruction and survival. "Just a little more," she whispered. "You held yourself together for 217 years. Hold on for 5 more minutes, let me help." Azrael stared at her like she was something holy, or insane, possibly both. Then his good hand came up, covered hers where it pressed against his chest. His fingers were warming, the gold and red in his eyes stabilizing. 5 minutes, he agreed hoarsely. Then we figure out what the hell comes next. Marina nodded, vision going gray. She felt herself tipping forward, consciousness slipping. The last thing she registered was Azrael catching her, his arms closing around her despite his wounds. His voice rough with something that might have been wonder. "I've got you. I've got you." Then darkness, and the bond singing between them like a bridge neither had known they needed. Marina woke to the feeling of being watched. Not the creepy, predatory kind of watched. The careful kind. Like someone memorizing details they thought they'd never see again. She kept her eyes closed, taking inventory. Soft surface beneath her, couch maybe. Blanket tucked around her shoulders. The smell of coffee and something else. Cinnamon, clean cotton. Not the abandoned church, somewhere safe. She opened her eyes. Azrael sat across from her in a worn armchair, cup of coffee cradled in both hands. He looked different, still battered, still marked by the battle that had nearly killed him, but stabilized. The burns on his right side had faded to angry red welts instead of charred flesh. The frost. Damage on his left had receded, leaving bruised skin instead of necrosis. His eyes were steady brown with just hints of gold red flickering in the depths. He looked almost human. Almost. "You're staring," Marina croaked. Her throat felt like sandpaper. "You've been unconscious for 18 hours. His voice was rough but steady. "I was starting to worry you wouldn't wake up." 18 hours. Marina sat up too fast, and the world tilted. Azrael was there instantly, hands steadying her shoulders, easing her back against the cushions. His touch was warm. Normal warm, not burning or freezing. The contact sent the mate bond humming between them, and she felt his relief like it was her own emotion. "Easy," he said. "You drained yourself completely, literally channeled your life force into keeping me balanced long enough to stabilize." His jaw tightened. "You could have died, but I didn't." Marina looked around, taking in the space. Small apartment, cleaner than hers, sparse furniture. Books everywhere, stacked on shelves, piled on the floor, covering every flat surface. Where are we? Somewhere the factions can't track easily. Warded. He moved back to his chair, putting careful distance between them. I've been moving every few weeks for decades. This one's temporary. They're all temporary. The loneliness in those words hit her like a physical blow. She felt it through the bond. Centuries of running, hiding, never belonging anywhere. Never safe enough to stay. Luca, she said suddenly, panic spiking. He'll be worried. I need to. I sent him a text from your phone. Azrael held up the device. Told him you were staying with a friend. Needed space after everything. He responded that you should take all the time you need, but he's checking on you tomorrow whether you like it or not. Marina huffed a weak laugh. That sounds like him. She studied Azrael, noting the tension in his shoulders, the way he wouldn't quite meet her eyes. You saved me. After I passed. Out. Got us out of that church. Brought me here. Kept me alive. You saved me first. He stared into his coffee cup like it held answers. No one's done that before. Not in 200 years. They either run from what I am, or they try to use me. You... He stopped, seeming to struggle for words. You saw me at my worst, fractured, dying, covered in blood and holy fire and demonic ice, and you still chose to help. Of course I did. The words came out simpler than she'd intended. True. Why? His eyes finally met hers, and the vulnerability there made her chest ache. We barely know each other. I threatened you. Told you I'd killed my own sister. You should have run. Marina considered the question seriously. Why hadn't she run? The smart move would have been to take Luca and disappear the moment the debt was cleared. Azrael had given her an out. Freedom. But the bond had other ideas. Because I felt you, she said quietly. Through whatever this is. She gestured vaguely between them. I felt you trying to hold yourself together. Felt 2 centuries of fighting a war nobody should have to fight alone. And I thought... Her voice wavered. I thought maybe you didn't have to be alone anymore. Azrael's hands tightened around the coffee cup. His eyes shifted, gold bleeding into brown, red flickering at the edges. Not violent. Emotional. The bond is getting stronger. You feel it too, don't you? It's not just pain and dying anymore. It's everything. My memories. My emotions. They're bleeding into you. She nodded. It was true. Over the past hours, she'd felt fragments that weren't hers. Flashes of faces she'd never met. The weight of guilt for crimes she'd never committed. The exhausting, relentless effort of holding 2 opposing forces in equilibrium, while both sides screamed to tear free. How do you live like this? She whispered. Feeling everything doubled? Light and dark, fighting constantly? You learn to compartmentalize, build walls inside your own mind. He set down the coffee cup, and she saw his hands were trembling again. But the walls are cracking, have been for years, using both sides against those collectors, then again against the factions. It accelerated the fracturing. I have maybe weeks before I lose myself completely, become something mindless, a beast that needs to be put down. No. Marina swung her legs off the couch, ignoring the weakness in her limbs. That's not happening. We stabilized you once. We can do it again. You nearly killed yourself doing it. His voice went sharp, afraid. And it was temporary. A stopgap, not a cure. Then we find a cure. She stood, swaying slightly. Azrael rose automatically, ready to catch her, but she waved him off. There has to be something. Research, rituals, other Nephilim who found ways to... There are no other Nephilim. The words fell like stones. Not anymore. The factions hunted us to near extinction. The few who survived either went deep into hiding or... He stopped, jaw working. Or they chose oblivion, let themselves fracture rather than keep fighting. The silence that followed felt suffocating. Marina processed the implications. Azrael wasn't just rare, he was alone. Possibly the last of his kind, still struggling to maintain sanity. "What about your parents?" she asked. "Angel father? Human mother? Or demon mother? Angel father? However it works." His expression shuddered. "Dead. Both sets. Angels don't take kindly to their own defiling themselves with demons or humans. Demons eat their young if they show too much angelic influence. Nephilim are orphans by design." Marina's heart cracked. She crossed to him without thinking, pulled by the bond and by simple human compassion. When she reached him, she did something monumentally stupid, or possibly the bravest thing she'd ever done. She wrapped her arms around him. Azrael went rigid, utterly still, like he'd forgotten how to respond to gentle touch. "I'm sorry," Marina said against his chest. "I'm sorry you've been alone so long. I'm sorry your sister died. I'm sorry the world made you into a weapon and then punished you for being one." She squeezed tighter. "But you're not alone anymore. You hear me? Whatever this bond is, wherever it leads, you're not fighting by yourself." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then his arms came up slowly, carefully, wrapping around her like she was made of glass. His face pressed into her hair, and she felt him shudder. Once. Twice. He was crying. Silent. Devastating. 217 years of grief and loneliness pouring out in racking tremors. Marina held him through it. Let him break apart in her arms the way she'd broken in his. The bond between them pulsed and strengthened, weaving tighter. She felt his anguish like it was her own. And maybe it was now. Maybe that was the point of the bond. To share the unbearable so no one had to carry it alone. When he finally pulled back, his eyes were red-rimmed, but clearer. More present. Then she'd seen them. "Thank you," he said hoarsely. "Don't thank me yet." Marina managed a shaky smile. "I'm about to be very annoying about keeping you alive." "I don't doubt it." Something almost like a real smile ghosted across his face. Then it faded. "But Marina, you need to understand what you're signing up for. The bond is permanent. It doesn't break. And it means when the factions come for me again, not if, when, they'll come for you too. You'll be marked. Hunted. Your normal life is over." She thought of her tiny apartment, her bartending job, the quiet, ordinary existence she'd built from nothing after their parents died. Safe. Predictable. Lonely in ways she'd never admitted. Then she thought of Azrael, the way his eyes shifted colors when he felt deeply. The careful control he maintained every second. The 217 years of surviving against impossible odds. The broken halo and independent shadows, and the war raging inside him every moment. She thought of Luca. Alive because Azrael had chosen mercy over mission. "I was never normal anyway," she said. "Grandmother saw to that. Sensitives don't get normal lives. We get weird ones where we see things we shouldn't, and know truths people want hidden." She met his gaze steadily. "At least this way, the weird comes with someone who gets it, who won't think I'm crazy when I talk about feeling lies or seeing auras or knowing when something supernatural is near." "You're insane," Azrael said. But there was warmth in it. Affection. Probably. Marina reached up, touched his face gently. His eyes shifted to gold under her palm, not violent, reactive. Just present. "But I'm committed now. So you're stuck with me." He caught her hand, held it against his cheek. The gesture was achingly vulnerable. "The bond will keep strengthening. Soon you won't just feel my emotions. You'll share my powers. The angelic and demonic sides will start manifesting in you. It changes humans. Makes them other. Other. Sounds better than ordinary." She tried for levity, but her voice shook. Because what he was describing terrified her. Becoming something new. Something unknown. but so did losing him. We should establish ground rules, Azrael said, suddenly practical. Deflecting. If we're doing this, truly doing this, we need boundaries. Safe words. Ways to tell when one of us is compromised. Compromised? If my demonic side takes over, I'll try to hurt you. If my angelic side dominates, I'll try to purify. You. Both are bad. His jaw tightened. And if the factions capture me, they'll use the bond to get to you. Torture me, you'll feel it. Use me as bait. Marina's stomach turned. She hadn't considered that angle. The bond went both ways. Vulnerability multiplied. Then we don't get captured, she said with more confidence than she felt. Marina, I'm serious. She squeezed his hand. You've survived 2 centuries by running and hiding. I've survived by being stubborn and resourceful. Together, she paused. I don't know what we are, but we're something new. And maybe that's what saves us. Azrael searched her face like he was trying to find the catch. The moment she'd realized the magnitude of what she was agreeing to and bolt. When he didn't find it, something in his expression softened. Opened. You're remarkable, he said quietly. Terrifying and remarkable. I'll take that as a compliment. Marina smiled. Then her stomach growled audibly, breaking the tension. Is there food? I'm starving. Kitchen, he gestured. It's not much. I don't eat often, but I keep basics for... He stopped, seeming to realize he'd never had reason to feed anyone before. Marina found bread, cheese, some slightly wilted vegetables. She made sandwiches while Azrael watched from the doorway, studying her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. The domesticity of the moment felt surreal, making food for a Nephilim in his warded apartment while mate bond hummed between them. Her life had become a paranormal romance novel, except real, and significantly more terrifying. What happens now? She asked, biting into her sandwich. Do we just wait for the next faction attack? Hope they don't find us? We prepare. Azrael's expression hardened, focused. You need training. Combat, mental shields, how to use the bond defensively. And I need to teach you about the supernatural world. Hierarchies, laws, how to identify threats. So basically, Nephilim boot camp. Essentially. His mouth quirked. Though significantly less organized and with much higher mortality rates. Marina laughed despite herself. Great, can't wait. She sobered. But seriously, how long do we have? Before they find us again? Azrael's eyes shifted to red gold, reading something she couldn't see. When he answered, his voice was grim. Days. Maybe a week if we're lucky. I burned too bright in that church. Every faction within 100 miles knows I'm here now. They're just deciding who gets first claim. Then we'd better make those days count. Marina finished her sandwich, suddenly exhausted again. Using the bond had drained her more than she'd realized. Azrael noticed immediately. You need rest. Real rest. Not adrenaline-fueled panic. Will you stay? The question came out smaller than intended. Vulnerable. His expression softened completely. I'm not going anywhere. Not anymore. Marina curled back up on the couch, and this time when Azrael draped the blanket over her, his hand lingered on her shoulder. Gentle. Protective. Through the bond, she felt his determination crystallize into something solid. He would keep her safe, would teach her to survive this new reality, would fight the fracturing inside him with everything he had left. Because for the first time in 2 centuries, he had a reason to. She fell asleep to the sensation of being guarded, not controlled, not isolated, just protected by someone who understood what it meant to be hunted. The training started at dawn, and Marina quickly realized Azrael had a sadistic definition of preparation. Again, he said, voice flat and merciless. You're telegraphing. I can see you tense before you move. Marina wiped sweat from her forehead, lungs burning. They'd been at this for 2 hours. Basic self-defense against supernatural threats, which apparently meant getting thrown around a warehouse Azrael had warded 3 times over. Her entire body ached. Bruises bloomed across her arms where he'd caught her wrists. Stopped. Her strikes. "I'm human," she panted. "Not everyone has 200-year-old muscle memory. The demons won't care about your limitations." Azrael circled her like a predator. His eyes were steady brown, but she caught flickers of gold when he moved too fast. "They'll snap your neck before you finish your first scream. Angels will be more efficient. Stop your heart with a touch. You need to react faster than thought. Instinct." "Great. No pressure." Marina reset her stance the way he'd shown. Her. Feet shoulder width, knees bent, hands up. "Come on then. Try again." He moved. Too fast. One moment standing 10 feet away, the next right in her space, hand reaching for her throat. Marina's body reacted before her mind caught up. She dropped, rolled, came up swinging. Her fist connected with nothing. He'd already moved. "Better," Azrael said from behind her. "You're learning, but you're still thinking in human speeds. Through the bond you have access to my reflexes. Use them." "I don't know how." Frustration bled into her voice. "You keep saying use the bond, like it comes with an instruction manual." Azrael paused, considered, then crossed to her, close enough that she felt heat radiating from him. The bond hummed between them, that constant background awareness of his presence. "Close your eyes," he said quietly. Marina hesitated, then complied. Immediately her other senses sharpened. She heard his breathing. Steady, controlled. Felt the air shift when he moved. The bond pulsed stronger in the darkness, and suddenly she was aware of more than just his location. She felt his heartbeat. The controlled violence coiled in his muscles. The dual nature under his skin, held in careful balance. "Feel that?" His voice came from her left. "That's me through the bond. My awareness. My combat instincts honed over centuries." He moved again, circling. "When I attack, you'll feel my intent a split second before I move. That's your advantage. Precognition through connection. That's cheating. That's survival." She heard the smile in his voice. "Now, defend yourself." He struck. Marina felt it. A spike through the bond, intent crystallizing into action. Her body moved without conscious thought, blocking, redirecting. Her eyes snapped open just as his fist stopped an inch from her face. His expression was pleased, proud. "There. That's what you need." Something warm unfurled in Marina's chest. Not just the bond. Something else. She was learning, adapting, becoming. Something more than the frightened bartender who'd blackmailed a Nephilim out of desperation. "Again," she said, grinning despite her exhaustion. They went 6 more rounds. Marina didn't win, couldn't win against someone with supernatural speed and strength. But she held her own longer each time. Started predicting his moves through the bond. Once, she even landed a hit. Her palm strike connected with his solar plexus, and he actually grunted. "Good," he said, rubbing the spot. "You're getting dangerous. You sound surprised, impressed." His eyes flickered gold. "Most humans freeze when facing something stronger. You keep attacking. Grandmother's genes." Marina collapsed against the wall, sliding down to sit. She used to say our family doesn't know how to quit, even when we should. Azrael settled beside her, leaving careful space between them. The bond stretched across the gap, a tether that made physical distance meaningless. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, both catching their breath. Then Marina asked the question that had been building since she'd woken in his apartment. "Why did they send you to kill me specifically? The angels. What makes me a target?" Azrael's expression shuddered. "Your bloodline. My grandmother's sensitivity. Deeper than that." He stared at his hands, and Marina noticed the veins beneath his skin were visible. Silver white on the right, dark on the left. The war made flesh. Your family descends from Watchers. Marina blinked. Watchers. The first angels to fall. They came to Earth, took human wives, and sired the original Nephilim. His voice went distant, educational, like reciting painful history. Most Watcher bloodlines were exterminated during the purges, but a few survived, diluted through generations, until humans didn't even know what they carried. Your grandmother's sensitivity, your ability to see truth, the way you can balance my dual nature, those are Watcher gifts. So I'm, what? Part angel? Distant. Enough that it doesn't manifest as power. Close enough that it resonates. He finally looked at her. There's a prophecy. Old. Mostly dismissed as folklore. It says Watcher descendants can anchor the forsaken, bind the broken, forge third paths between warring heavens. Angels interpret that as Nephilim finding a way to stabilize through Watcher blood. Demons interpret it as humans gaining access to celestial power. Both factions want the bloodlines eliminated before the prophecy can manifest. Marina's head spun. So they sent you to kill me because I might, hypothetically, help Nephilim survive? Exactly. Bitterness crept into his tone. I've eliminated 7 Watcher descendants in the past decade. All of them innocent. All of them unaware of what they carried. His hands clenched. You were supposed to be the 8th, quick, clean, before you could awaken any latent abilities. But you didn't. Marina's voice came out softer than intended. You watched me instead. Why? The silence. Stretched so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, because you reminded me of her. Serial. His voice cracked on the name. Same stubborn determination. Same refusal to accept the world as it was handed to her. She would have liked you. Would have said... He stopped, swallowed hard. Would have said, maybe the prophecy wasn't about destruction. Maybe it was about hope. Marina felt tears prick her eyes. Through the bond, she sensed the depth of his loss. 2 centuries hadn't dulled it. Just taught him to carry it. I'm sorry you lost her, she said. I'm sorry they made you choose. I'm not. The words came out fierce, defensive. If I'd refused, they would have made her death last decades, centuries. What I did was mercy. The only kindness I had left to give. It was also love. Marina reached over, took his hand. His fingers were warm, almost feverish. You loved her enough to carry that guilt forever. To never forgive yourself. That's not weakness, Azrael. That's the most human thing about you. His eyes shifted, gold and red swirling, unable to settle. I don't deserve absolution. I'm not offering it. Marina squeezed his hand. I'm just saying, maybe you've punished yourself long enough. Maybe it's time to figure out what comes after guilt. What comes after is oblivion. His voice went hollow. I fracture completely, lose myself, become the monster they always said I was. Or, Marina countered, the prophecy is right, and I help you find balance. We figure out how to stabilize your dual nature permanently. You survive long enough to... She paused. What? Long enough to what? She hadn't thought that far ahead. To live, Azrael finished quietly. That's what you were going to say. Long enough to actually live instead of just survive. Marina nodded. Is that so impossible? Yes. But his hand tightened around hers. And also, maybe, if the bond really is what the prophecy meant, if your bloodline can do what they claim. His expression hardened with determination. But that makes you even more valuable, more dangerous. Every faction will want to either possess you or destroy you. Then we'd better get very good at not being found. Marina stood, pulling him up with her. Come on. Teach me mental shields next. If demons can read minds, I want mine locked down tight. Azrael stared at her like she'd grown a second head. You just learned you're prophesied to either save or doom every supernatural faction in existence. And your response is to Ask for more training? What else am I supposed to do? Have a breakdown? Marina shrugged. I'll pencil that in for later. Right now, I'd rather learn how to keep demons out of my head. Something shifted in Azrael's expression. Wonder, disbelief. The gold in his eyes steadied, burning brighter. You're either the bravest person I've ever met or the most reckless. Can I be both? He laughed, actually laughed, genuine and startled. The sound transformed his face, made him look younger, less burdened. Marina felt her heart do something complicated and dangerous. Oh no, this wasn't just a mate bond, wasn't just supernatural connection or shared survival instinct. This was something worse, something infinitely more complicated. She was falling for him, for the broken Nephilim with shifting eyes and centuries of guilt, for the creature who'd been sent to kill her but chose mercy instead, for the being who held light and darkness in eternal warfare but still fought to remain gentle. Marina must have broadcast the realization through the bond because Azrael's laughter died. His eyes locked on hers, searching, finding whatever he'd been looking for. Marina. His voice dropped to something rough, vulnerable. Don't. She stepped back, needing space, needing to think. Don't say whatever you're about to say. Not yet. We barely know each other. This bond is messing with our heads. I need time to figure out what's real and what's supernatural interference. Hurt flashed across his face before he could hide it. Of course. You're right. The bond complicates everything. But Marina felt the lie through their connection. Felt his emotions clear as daylight. This wasn't just the bond for him either. It was choice. Genuine feeling that terrified him as much as it drew him. We should keep training, she said, desperate to move past the moment. You were going to teach me shields. Azrael nodded stiffly. Sit. This requires meditation and focus. They spent the next hour in silence, Azrael guiding her through mental exercises, building walls in her mind, creating barriers that would keep out intrusive thoughts. It was exhausting, abstract work that made her head ache. But she persisted, because he was right. Every faction would come for her now. She needed to be ready. They were deep in meditation. Marina's consciousness turned inward when she felt it. A spike through the bond. Not from Azrael, from outside. Her eyes snapped open. Something's wrong. Azrael was already on his feet, body tensed. His eyes had gone full red gold, war mode engaged. The wards. Something's breaking through. The warehouse door exploded inward in a blast of holy fire. 3 figures stood silhouetted in the flames, tall, imposing, radiating power that made Marina's teeth ache. Angels. She knew it instinctively, recognized the wrongness of beings never meant to touch earthly ground. The one in front stepped through the fire like it was nothing, beautiful in an inhuman way. Perfect features, white gold hair, eyes like molten silver. When it spoke, its voice echoed with harmonics that shouldn't exist. Azrael, son of Azazel and the human woman Miriam, you stand accused of disobedience, fraternization with forbidden bloodlines, and corruption of celestial purpose. The angel's gaze shifted to Marina, and she felt it like ice down her spine. The Watcher descendant will be terminated. You will be returned for judgment. These are your only options. Azrael moved in front of Marina, shielding her. His shadows manifested, writhing, alive, defensive. Light poured from his right hand simultaneously, creating a bizarre halo effect around them both. Third option, he said, voice layered with both his natures. You leave, now, before I show you exactly why abominations survive when perfection fails. The angel smiled, cold, merciless. So be it. Then heaven descended, and the warehouse became a battlefield. The first angel moved like liquid. Lightning, there and gone before Marina's human eyes could track. But the bond screamed warning. and she dropped flat as holy fire scorched the air where her head had been. The heat was unbearable, unnatural. It didn't just burn, it unmade. She watched the concrete wall behind her dissolve into dust. "Stay down!" Azrael's voice came from everywhere at once, layered and terrible. He was already engaged with two angels simultaneously, his body a blur of light and shadow. When he blocked their strikes, reality rippled. When he attacked, the warehouse shook. Marina scrambled behind a support beam, mind racing. The training had covered basic defense, mental shields, how to sense supernatural threats. It had not covered what to do when literal angels try to erase you from existence. The third angel, the one with molten silver eyes who'd spoken, stalked toward her hiding spot with predatory patience. It didn't rush, didn't need to. What chance did a human have against something that had existed since the dawn of creation? "Watch your blood," it said conversationally, voice echoing with harmonics that made Marina's bones vibrate. "Diluted, weak, but present. You reek of it. Old sin, ancient transgression, made flesh through generations of corruption." It tilted its head, studying her. "Did you know your ancestor begged? Pleaded with us to spare her Nephilim child? We purified them both. Fire and blade. Mercy, we called it." Rage flooded Marina's veins. Hot. Primal. "Mercy. You murdered children. We eliminated abominations." The angel's expression remained serene, perfect, empty. "As we eliminate you now." It raised its hand, and light gathered in its palm, blinding, absolute, wrong in ways that made Marina's sensitive perception scream. This was annihilation given form, not death. Erasure. Through the bond, she felt Azrael's panic, his desperate attempt to reach her. But the other two angels had him pinned, coordinating their attacks with military precision. He couldn't break free in time. Marina was going to die. The thought crystallized with strange clarity. No escape, no clever plan. Just ending, at the hands of something that viewed her as a genetic mistake needing correction. Except, the bond pulsed. Not with Azrael's emotions. With power. His power. Flowing through their connection like electricity through copper wire. Angelic light on one side. Demonic shadow on the other. Both pouring into her, looking for outlet, seeking expression. Marina stopped thinking. Stopped being afraid. Let instinct take over. She threw her hand up, mirroring the angel's gesture, and power exploded from her palm. Not pure light like the angels. Not absolute darkness like a demon's. Something between. Silver gold shot through with obsidian threads, swirling and chaotic and impossible. It met the angel's annihilation beam mid-air, and when they collided, the world went white. Marina heard screaming, realized distantly it was her, the power flooding through. Her was agony. Two opposing forces trying to tear her apart from the inside, just like they'd been tearing Azrael apart for centuries. Light burned, darkness drowned. Together, they were crucifixion. But she held on, gritted her teeth and refused to let go. Because releasing the power meant the angel's strike hit her, meant death. The stalemate lasted 3 seconds that felt like hours. Then the warehouse ceiling cracked. Support beams shrieked, and Marina felt something shift in the power. Dynamic. The angel's light wavering, weakening against her hybrid assault. It stumbled back, shock cracking its perfect facade. Impossible. Humans cannot channel. Azrael hit it from behind like a freight train. The impact shattered windows. The angel went down hard, and Azrael was on it immediately. One hand glowing with sanctified light, the other dripping shadow. He pressed both to the angel's chest simultaneously, and Marina watched in horrified awe as the celestial being convulsed, burned, and froze at once. "You don't touch her," Azrael snarled, and his voice was pure violence. ever. The other two angels converged on him. Marina saw it happening, saw them moving to flank, to overwhelm. She tried to summon that power again, but her body was already shutting down from the first use. Her vision blurred. Her knees buckled. Through dimming awareness, she felt Azrael's choice crystallize through the bond. He could fight them, maybe even win, but not while protecting her. To truly unleash both his natures simultaneously, he needed to stop holding back, stop maintaining the careful balance that kept him sane. He needed to fracture. "No," Marina whispered. "Azrael, don't." But he was already letting go. The change was visible. His halo fragment blazed so bright it hurt to look at. His shadows expanded until they swallowed half the warehouse. His eyes went pure gold on the right, absolute crimson on the left. The skin between his shoulder blades split, not bleeding, just opening, and for one terrible moment, Marina saw the outline of wings trying to manifest. Broken wings, one skeletal and burning, one made of living darkness. He screamed. The sound layered 3 voices deep, human, angelic, demonic, all in perfect dissonance. And then he moved. What happened next barely qualified as a fight. It was obliteration. Azrael tore through the angels like they were paper, his dual nature unleashed without restraint. Holy fire from one hand reduced the first angel to ash. Shadow from the other swallowed the second whole, drowning it in darkness so complete Marina felt it pulling at her sanity just watching. The third angel, the leader, tried to flee. Azrael caught it mid-flight, dragged it down, and pressed both hands to its face. Light and dark poured in simultaneously, and the angel's scream was cut short as both forces met in the center of its skull. Silence fell like a curtain. Marina forced herself upright, every muscle screaming. The warehouse was destroyed, walls cracked, ceilings sagging, fires burning in corners. But worse was Azrael. He stood in the center of the carnage, chest heaving, eyes still split between gold and red. His hands were shaking violently. The wings, those horrible broken wings, flickered in and out of visibility like a dying neon sign. And his face, he was crying. Blood-red tears from his right eye, liquid shadow from his left. "Azrael?" Marina took a step toward him, then another. He flinched away. "Don't." His voice was wrong, layered but out of sync now. I can't control it. Can't pull them back. They're too strong. I'm fracturing." She felt it through the bond. The war inside him had gone nuclear. Angel and demon no longer content to coexist, both fighting for dominance, both willing to tear him apart to win. He was splintering in real time, pieces of his psyche breaking off, drifting away. "Look at me," Marina commanded, pouring every ounce of will into her voice. "Azrael, look at me." His eyes, mismatched, terrible, lost, found hers. And she felt his terror through the bond. Terror not of death, but of what he was becoming. The beast he'd always feared lay under his control. Marina did the only thing she could think of. She walked straight into his space, grabbed his face with both hands, and kissed him. The effect was immediate. The bond flared between them like a supernova, and Marina channeled everything she'd learned in training, the meditation, the shielding, the balance, directly into him through the kiss. She became the anchor, the fulcrum, the third path the prophecy mentioned. She felt his angel side raging, righteous, absolute, demanding purity. Felt his demon half snarling, hungry, chaotic, demanding destruction. And she stood between them like a wall, forcing equilibrium, not suppressing either side, not choosing one over the other, just holding them in balance long enough for Azrael to remember himself. Remember he was more than warring halves. He was the sum, the whole, the choice to be gentle despite being made for violence. When they broke apart, his eyes were brown again, exhausted, human. The wings had vanished. The tears had stopped. He was trembling still, but holding together. How? His voice came out raw, single-toned. How did you do that? Watcher blood, apparently. Marina managed a shaky smile. Anchors the forsaken, binds the broken, or whatever that prophecy said. Azrael stared at her like she'd hung the moon. You stabilized me. Completely. For the first time in... His voice broke. I can't feel them fighting anymore. It's quiet. It's actually quiet in my head. Marina felt tears of her own building. How long will it last? I don't know. He pulled her close, and she felt his heartbeat against her cheek. Steady. Strong. But Marina, you saved me. Not just from them. From myself. We saved each other. She held him tighter. That's how this works now, right? Right. He pressed his face into her hair, and she felt something wet hit her shoulder. More tears. Human ones this time. I don't deserve you. Probably not. Marina pulled back enough to see his face. But you're stuck with me anyway. Prophecy says so. He laughed, watery and broken. Then his expression shifted, became serious, terrified in a new way. They'll send more, he said. Stronger ones. What we just faced was a scouting party. When they report back, or when they don't report back, heaven will escalate. Send seraphim, thrones, maybe even powers. So we run. Marina tried to sound braver than she felt. Like you've been running for 2 centuries. We disappear. They'll find us. They always find me. His hands framed her face, gentle despite the violence they'd just unleashed. But Marina, I won't let them take you. I'll fracture 1,000 times before I let them hurt you. Do you understand? She did. Through the bond, she felt his absolute conviction, his willingness to destroy himself completely if it meant keeping her safe. Then we'd better figure out how to make the stabilization permanent, she said, because I'm not losing you to martyrdom after I just got you sane. Azrael's smile was painful. Beautiful. You sound like Sariel. She never accepted no either. Smart woman. Marina kissed him again, softer this time, sealing the promise. Now come on. We need to move before reinforcements arrive, and I need to call Luca and lie very convincingly about why I can't come home yet. They fled the warehouse, hand in hand, leaving behind 3 piles of ash that had been angels. Marina felt the bond between them humming, stronger now, tempered by crisis. She'd channeled Nephilim power and survived, had become the anchor the prophecy foretold. But as they disappeared into the pre-dawn city, she felt something else too. A presence. Watching. Not angelic. Darker. Older. Something from the other side of Azrael's heritage had taken notice. The demons were coming next. The demon came 3 days later, but not in the way Marina expected. She'd been anticipating violence, fire and sulfur, and the kind of dramatic confrontation that had become their new normal. Instead, it appeared in Azrael's warded apartment while they slept, standing at the foot of the bed like an uninvited dinner guest. Marina woke to the smell of cinnamon and burning paper. Her eyes snapped open, and there it was, wearing a woman's face, beautiful in an unsettling way. 2 dark eyes, smile that promised secrets, dressed in an expensive suit that screamed corporate power player. "Hello, darling," it said, voice smooth as poisoned honey. "Don't scream. I'm not here to fight." Azrael was awake instantly, body coiled between Marina and the demon. His eyes shifted to red gold, power crackling beneath his skin. Lilith. The one and only. The demon, Lilith, examined her nails casually. Well, one of many Liliths, technically. We're a franchise at this point, but I'm the original, so that counts for something. Marina's heart hammered. She remembered Azrael's lessons about demonic hierarchies. Lilith wasn't just any demon. She was first circle. Ancient. Powerful enough to make Hell's aristocracy nervous. How did you get through the wards? Azrael's voice was deadly calm. Please. I taught the Watchers half those ward structures when they first fell. Lilith waved dismissively. Your protections are adorable, very thorough, but ultimately futile against someone who remembers when angels first learned to doubt. Her gaze slid to Marina. And you, the little Watcher descendant causing such delicious chaos. I had to meet you personally. Get out, Marina said, surprised her voice didn't shake. Whatever you want, the answer's no. Lilith laughed, delighted. Oh, I like her. Spine of steel. No wonder the bond took so thoroughly. She perched on the edge of Azrael's desk, crossing her legs. But I'm not here to make demands, child. I'm here to make an offer. We don't deal with hell. Azrael growled. Don't you, though? Lilith's smile sharpened. Half of you is literally demonic sweetness. Denying your nature is so very angelic of you. How's that working out? She gestured at him. Oh, right. 2 centuries of fracturing, barely holding together, murdering your own sister because heaven said jump and you asked how high. Marina felt rage spike through the bond. Azrael's shadows manifested, writhing. Careful, Lilith. Your age won't save you if you keep talking. There's the fire Remember? Lilith's eyes gleamed. Azazel's son indeed. Your father had that same righteous fury, right up until he fell into my arms. She sobered fractionally. I didn't come to antagonize you, Azrael. Truly. I came because hell is not interested in hunting you anymore. Silence. Marina felt Azrael's confusion mirror her own. Explain, he demanded. Lilith stood, began pacing. Heaven wants you dead or enslaved. They view Nephilim as abominations that threaten their perfect order. But hell? She smiled. Hell loves abominations. We're all abominations down there. Fallen angels, corrupted souls, beings that shouldn't exist but do anyway. You're not a threat to us. You're potential. Potential for what? Marina asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. For balance. Lilith turned to her. The prophecy your bloodline carries? Anchor the forsaken, bind the broken, forge third paths between warring heavens? Heaven interprets that as threat, but we see opportunity. A Nephilim, stabilized by Watcher blood, could exist outside both hierarchies. Could create. She paused, choosing words carefully. A third option. For beings tired of the eternal war. Azrael's expression was pure skepticism. Hell doesn't do altruism. No, we do survival. Lilith's voice hardened. The war between heaven and hell has raged since before humans drew breath. It's exhausting, pointless. We're locked in eternal stalemate, and for what? Pride? Ancient grudges? Neither side can win, but neither will yield. She moved closer, and Marina smelled cinnamon intensify. But a third faction? Nephilim, Watcher descendants, beings who exist between? That changes the game. That introduces new variables. That might finally break the deadlock. Marina's mind raced. You want to use us, to destabilize the balance of power. I want to hire you, Lilith corrected. Sanctuary in Hell's territories. Protection from angelic prosecution. Resources to research permanent stabilization for Azrael's. Condition. In exchange, you occasionally do work for us. Retrieval. Mediation. Nothing involving harming humans or forced corruption. And we're supposed to trust you? Azrael laughed bitterly. Demons lie. It's literally what you do. We lie to humans, to each other. Lilith met his eyes steadily. But I'm offering you a contract. Magically binding. You know Hell's contracts are absolute. We can't break them even if we wanted to. Every clause, every condition, enforced by power older than creation itself. She produced a document from nowhere, ancient parchment covered in script that hurt to look at. Marina recognized some symbols from her grandmother's decorations. Protection sigils, binding clauses, truth-telling compulsions. Read it, Lilith said. Every word. Have the Watcher blood examine it for loopholes. I'll wait. Azrael took the contract with obvious reluctance. Marina moved beside him, and together they read. It took an hour. The language was archaic, dense, legally complex in ways that made modern law look simple. But the core terms were clear. Hell would provide sanctuary, resources, and protection from all angelic factions. In exchange, Azrael and Marina would complete 12 tasks over the next decade. Mediations between supernatural factions, retrieval of objects or information, nothing involving human harm or soul corruption. They could refuse any individual task with justification. After 12 completions, the contract expired, and they owed hell. Nothing further. Failure to complete tasks resulted in loss of protection. Breaking terms resulted in... Marina's blood went cold reading this part. Soul forfeiture for both parties. This is insane, she whispered. We'd be binding ourselves to hell. You'd be buying time, Lilith countered. How long do you think you'll survive with heaven actively hunting you? Days? Weeks? Azrael's stabilization is temporary. You felt what happened when he fractured fighting those angels. Next time, the kiss might not be enough. Eventually, you'll both break. The words hit like physical blows because they were true. Marina had felt Azrael's quiet inside his head after she'd anchored him. But she'd also felt it starting to return. The angel and demon waking up again, resuming their eternal argument. Quieter than before, but present, growing. There has to be another way, Marina said desperately. There isn't. Azrael's voice was hollow. He set down the contract, and Marina saw defeat in the slump of his shoulders. I've looked for centuries, tried every ritual, every meditation technique, every suppression method. Nothing works permanently. I was always going to fracture eventually. Was always going to become the beast they feared. So we take Hell's deal? Marina couldn't believe she was considering this. Sell ourselves to demons? We buy time. Azrael looked at her, and his eyes were heartbreakingly honest. Time to research, to find a real cure, to live instead of just running. He touched her face gently. Time for this, us, to be more than crisis and survival. Marina's throat tightened. She thought about what they'd been through. The violence, the fear, the constant threat. They'd barely had time to explore what the bond meant beyond mutual survival. Barely had a conversation that didn't involve supernatural threats or combat training. What would they be like with actual time? With safety, however, bought with demonic contracts. I need to talk to Luca first, she said. Finally, he deserves to know what I'm choosing. Lilith nodded. Fair. You have until midnight. After that, heaven will have tracked you here. And this offer expires when the next angelic death squad arrives. She vanished between blinks, there and gone, leaving only the smell of cinnamon and the contract lying on the desk like a coiled snake. Marina called Luca immediately. He answered on the second ring, worried. Mar? Where are you? I've been texting. I know. I'm sorry. Listen, I need to tell you something, and you're going to think I've lost my mind. She told him everything. The debt collectors, Azrael, the angels, her Watcher bloodline, the mate bond, the battle, the demonic offer. All of it. Every impossible, insane detail. When she finished, silence stretched so long she thought the call had dropped. Then Luca said, I knew something was wrong that night. When they let me go. No one just forgives $15,000. His voice was steady, thoughtful. And I've noticed things about you lately. The way your eyes catch light wrong sometimes. How you always know when I'm lying now. Grandmother's gift manifesting. You believe me? Marina's voice cracked. You're my sister. You wouldn't lie about something this crazy. She heard him take a shaky breath. So what do you need from me? Permission. Tears spilled over. This contract. If I sign it, I'm choosing a path that takes me away from normal. From family dinners and regular phone calls and you being able to visit. I'll be in hell's territories, doing supernatural work, living a life you can't be part of because it's too dangerous. Marina. Luca's voice was fierce. You think I don't know you've been protecting me our whole lives? Since Mom and Dad died? You dropped out of college to raise me. Worked terrible jobs to keep us housed and fed. Went into debt trying to save a business you never even wanted. She heard him fighting tears. This Azrael guy. He makes you happy. Marina looked at Azrael, who was watching her with such careful hope it broke her heart. Yeah, he does. When we're not fighting for our lives, he makes me happy. Then you sign that contract, Luca said firmly. You choose the life that lets you actually live. I'm 16, almost 17. I'll be fine. But you? His voice softened. You've never chosen yourself, Mar. Not once. Choose yourself now. Choose him. I'll be okay. They talked for another 20 minutes. Made plans. Coded messages they could exchange. Safe. Ways to communicate. Emergency protocols. When Marina finally hung up, she was crying openly. Azrael held her while she sobbed, offering comfort without words. When midnight approached, they sat together at the desk. The contract lay between them, waiting. Last chance to run, Azrael said quietly. We could try disappearing. Take our chances against heaven. We'd die within a month. Marina picked up the pen Lilith had left. Expensive, heavy, probably cursed. And I'm tired of running. Tired of surviving by minutes and seconds. I want time. She looked at him. I want to know who we are when we're not drowning. Azrael's smile was sad and beautiful. We might not like what we find. Then we'll figure it out together. Marina pressed the pen to parchment. Ready? No. He covered her hand with his. But I'm doing it anyway. They signed simultaneously. Marina's name in modern script. Azrael's in flowing Enochian. The moment ink touched parchment, the contract flared with light. Not holy light. Not demonic darkness. Something else. The color of binding magic. Of oaths made absolute. Of choices that could never be unmade. Marina felt it settle into her bones. A weight. A certainty. She was hell's now. Both of them were. But as Azrael pulled her close, and the bond between them sang with new strength, reinforced by the contract's magic, she realized something. They'd chosen each other. Chosen this impossible, dangerous, beautiful thing between them over safety, over normalcy, over everything else. And maybe that was enough. Maybe love, however supernatural, however complicated, was always worth the risk. What happens now? She asked against his shoulder. Now we live. Azrael's voice was steady. Sure. However long we have, whatever comes, we face it together. Through the window, dawn broke over the city. A new day, a new life. A third path forged between warring heavens, anchored by a Watcher descendant and a Nephilim who'd learned that sometimes monsters chose gentleness and humans chose darkness, and love existed in the spaces between. They'd signed away their freedom to hell itself. But somehow, wrapped in each other's arms as morning light flooded the room, Marina had never felt more free. The war between heaven and hell would continue. Other threats would come. The contract would demand its 12 tasks. Their story was far from over. In many ways, it was just beginning. But for now, in this moment, they had something neither heaven nor hell could take away. They had each other. They had time. And they had hope. It would have to be enough. Marina chose love when logic screamed to run. She signed away her freedom to hell itself, for the chance to save a creature the universe had marked for extinction. But here's the question that haunts long after the story ends. What would you sacrifice for someone who saw you, truly saw you, at your absolute worst and chose to stay anyway? Would you risk your soul for a being made of light and Darkness who'd spent 2 centuries convinced he didn't deserve gentleness? Would you anchor a monster fighting not to become one, knowing that his fracture could drag you into oblivion? Marina didn't have the luxury of time to philosophize. She had 48 hours, impossible odds, and a mate bond that made walking away feel like self-mutilation. So she chose the hardest path, not because it was heroic, but because sometimes love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone worth breaking for, worth rebuilding with, worth forging third paths alongside when heaven and hell both want you erased. This story reminds us that the most courageous thing we can do isn't slaying our demons. It's learning to hold them gently while they learn to hold us back. That prophecies aren't about destiny, but about choice. That balance doesn't mean eliminating darkness or drowning in light, but standing firm in the space between and refusing to let either side win. Marina and Azrael didn't get a fairy tale ending. They got something harder and more real. Time bought with blood and contracts, love forged in crisis, and hope that maybe, just maybe, 2 broken souls could build something whole together. If this story made you feel something, if it reminded you that monsters are often just beings who've forgotten how to be gentle and humans are capable of extraordinary darkness and light, then please share it, like this video. Follow for more stories that explore the beautiful, terrible spaces between what we are and what we choose to become. Because sometimes, the most powerful magic isn't supernatural. It's simply refusing to give up on each other.